The moment I backed my truck up the gravel road, I saw her, HOA Karen, standing at the end like she owned the entire county. "Stop right there! You can't pass!" she screamed, waving a laminated notice like it had magical power. I froze for a second, heart hammering. This was the only road to my farm, the one my family had worked for years to build. "I'm on my own land," I shouted, but she didn't even flinch. Instead, she pulled out her phone, dialing, "I'm calling the cops. He's trespassing." I watched her press the fake authority like a weapon, feeling a rush of anger and disbelief. My little boy was in the truck with me, staring wide-eyed, clutching his toy tractor. "Daddy, why is she stopping us?" he asked. I forced a calm smile, though inside I was boiling. I stayed quiet, knowing any wrong move would make her gloat for the next decade. But I also knew something she didn't. This road wasn't hers to block. Not legally, not morally. As Karen stomped her heels, barking orders at imaginary officers on the phone, I noticed something odd. Her grip on the laminated notice was shaking. That told me she knew she was bluffing. And if there was one thing I had learned from years of running my family farm and dealing with power-hungry neighbors, it was this. Bluffing people like Karen only worked until you caught them in their lies. I leaned back, pretending to inspect my truck. My mind raced. There had to be a way around her, a way to reclaim the road without breaking the law. And then a memory hit me. Decades ago, the old owners had dug a drainage tunnel under the far corner of the property. It wasn't on any maps. Nobody had used it in years. My pulse jumped. If I could reach that tunnel, I could pass without her ever touching the road. Karen's scream of, "I'm serious! Call the cops!" echoed behind me, but I had already made a silent promise. She had underestimated me, and underestimating me, that would be her biggest mistake. I slipped out of the truck, keeping my boy close, and walked toward the far corner of the property, where the old drainage tunnel entrance was hidden under a thick pile of leaves and broken boards. Karen was still shouting behind me, her voice cracking like she was losing control. I crouched low, clearing the debris just enough to see the dark opening. It smelled musty, damp, but it was solid. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from the thrill of having a secret she couldn't touch. "Daddy, is it safe?" my son whispered, his small hand gripping mine. I smiled, trying to hide the adrenaline. "As long as we stick together," I said, sliding into the tunnel first. The walls were narrow, but I knew the layout from stories my grandfather had told me. This tunnel wasn't just a shortcut, it was a relic, a hidden path that connected to the other side of the road, right past Karen's blockade. Halfway through, I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. Karen had decided to follow. "I see you!" she screamed. My stomach dropped for a second. She wasn't supposed to know. But then I realized she couldn't fit in the tunnel. Her shouting turned into frustrated pacing above ground. I took a deep breath, moving faster, the dim light revealing the old wooden beams holding the tunnel up. Every step was tense, every breath measured. When we finally emerged on the other side, I peeked back. Karen was still at the road, waving her arms like a mad conductor. I looked at my boy and whispered, "See? Secret paths exist for those who know where to look." He grinned, eyes wide, the kind of grin that made me feel proud and furious at the same time. But the tunnel had done more than get us past her. Hidden in the dirt along the exit, I spotted something strange. A pile of papers stamped with HOA logos and dates from months ago. Someone had been covering up violations, fake notices, false threats. My mind raced. This wasn't just about blocking a road anymore. This was bigger than Karen, and if I played it right, I could expose everything. I stepped out of the tunnel, clutching the stack of papers, my pulse racing. Karen was still fuming on the other side of the road, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. I could see her dialing her phone again, probably calling the HOA lawyer or, she thought, real cops. "You can't do this!" she shouted, pointing at me, her voice high-pitched with rage. I held the papers up calmly. "Actually, I already did."
Her eyes flicked to the papers, then back to me, confusion breaking through her fury. That pause was all I needed. "What's that?" she barked. I stepped closer to the road, showing her the documents. Forged signatures, fake violation notices, and even emails threatening neighbors with fines that weren't real. "Looks like someone's been playing with the rules," I said, letting the words sink in. Her face went pale, but only for a second. Then she tried to regain control, shouting, "You can't prove anything! This is my neighborhood!" I smirked. Funny, because it says right here that the HOA has no authority over this property. And the last board meeting, you didn't even attend. Karen's fake confidence started to crumble, but she wasn't done. She whipped out her phone, pretending to call the cops again, but this time I noticed something terrifying. She was recording me. "You think this will stop me?" she hissed. My stomach sank for a second, but then I remembered another twist I had at my sleeve. Hidden in my pocket was my phone's secret recorder. Every interaction with Karen had been captured, including her previous threats and lies. "You're recording me?" she screamed. I nodded slowly. Yep, every word, every fake notice, every bluff. Her eyes widened in disbelief, rage boiling over. That's when the first neighbors started stepping out of their houses, curious from all the shouting. And as they gathered, I realized something amazing. Karen had underestimated the community. People were watching, people were listening, and she was exposed in real time.
Karen's hands shook as she waved her phone, shouting, "I'm calling the cops! He's trespassing, harassing me, breaking the rules!" But this time, no one moved. The neighbors were silent, eyes narrowed, sensing something off about her. I stepped forward, calm but firm. "Funny, the last call you made? I already played that one back to the real sheriff. He's on his way." Her face twisted, half panic, half fury. "Lies! You can't!" she stammered, but I held up my phone, showing her the recorded calls. The evidence was undeniable. Karen's fake threats, forged signatures, and even her telling another neighbor to make him pay for daring to own land. The crowd started murmuring, whispers growing louder, like a storm building. I glanced at my boy, who stood quietly beside me, clutching his toy tractor. "Daddy, is she in trouble?" he asked softly. I nodded, squeezing his shoulder. "She's going to learn what happens when you play games with people who know their rights." Karen panicked, her voice rising as she tried to regain control, but the twist came fast. She didn't know I had another surprise. Buried in the dirt near the tunnel, I'd found a hidden camera she'd placed months ago, trying to spy on the property secretly. Not only had I captured her lies, but I had proof she was breaking the law herself. The crowd gasped as I revealed it, showing the footage of Karen sneaking onto the property, planting cameras, and then waving fake notices at others. Her confident mask shattered. This isn't legal," she yelled. But the real sheriff arrived right then, pulled up quietly behind the crowd, and looked at Karen's phone and my recordings. His expression was icy. "Ma'am, impersonating authority and trespassing? That's serious." Karen froze. Her screams turned into desperate stammers. Every lie, every fake threat, every attempt to control the road was crumbling in real time. And the community? They were finally seeing the real Karen, the one who thought she could play God over everyone else's land. The sheriff stepped closer, scanning Karen's phone and then glancing at the gathered neighbors. "Ma'am, step aside," he said calmly. Karen's face twisted with panic, but there was no one left to bluff. The crowd was quiet now, watching every second. I pulled my boy closer, feeling a mix of relief and righteous anger. Years of dealing with her entitlement, her fake authority, her constant harassment. It was all about to hit her. Karen tried one last move. "You don't understand. This land, this road, it's mine to control," she shouted. The sheriff shook his head slowly. "Ownership records don't lie, and impersonating officers, that's a felony." He looked at me briefly. "You've got everything recorded?" I nodded. Every call, every threat, every fake notice, and she's been caught on her own hidden camera, spying on the property. The neighbors murmured, some even clapping softly, unable to hide their satisfaction.
Karen's face turned red, then pale. She finally realized the tables had turned completely. The biggest twist came next. As the sheriff led her away, I noticed something in her panic scramble, a set of HOA documents she'd been hiding in her car, listing other neighbors she'd tried to intimidate and falsify records against. Pulling them out, I realized we had the whole corrupt system in our hands. With one move, the entire HOA's lies could be exposed, and Karen wouldn't be able to threaten anyone ever again. I looked at my son, who grinned wide, eyes shining with excitement and awe. "Daddy, we won!" I smiled, but I also felt the deeper satisfaction. This wasn't just about winning against Karen. It was about showing the community that corruption and lies couldn't survive when someone had courage, brains, and proof on their side.
Karen's escort to the sheriff's car wasn't the end. She was still screaming, waving her arms, trying to drag attention back to herself. But the neighbors weren't looking at her anymore. They were looking at me, the guy she thought she could push around, and they were finally seeing the truth. I stepped closer, holding the pile of HOA documents, my heart pounding. This is all public now," I said, letting the words sink in. "Every fake notice, every threat, every attempt to control someone else's land, it's all here." Her eyes widened in horror. You can't," she stammered. I shook my head slowly. "Oh, I can, and I already have." I handed the documents to the sheriff, who nodded approvingly. Then, the second twist hit. The video footage from her own hidden cameras wasn't just of my property. It also showed her harassing other neighbors, threatening them with fines, and even falsifying HOA votes. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Ma'am, this is bigger than you thought." Karen's face went pale, her fake confidence evaporating completely. She tried to argue, but every word sounded hollow, every gesture weak. And as the sheriff started speaking to the neighbors, explaining how the entire HOA had been compromised, murmurs of disbelief turned into applause. The power she had wielded for years was crumbling in seconds. I glanced at my boy, whose excitement mirrored my own. "Daddy, we really did it," he whispered. I smiled, ruffling his hair. "Yup, and now everyone knows the truth. No one can mess with our land again." Karen's last desperate scream echoed in the distance as the sheriff drove her away, but the real victory was in the quiet relief that settled over the farm. The road was clear, the tunnel was our secret edge, and the community finally understood that justice doesn't need shouting, it just needs proof. The next morning, the farm was quiet, the kind of peaceful silence that only comes after chaos has been settled. I walked along the road, inspecting the damage Karen had caused over the years. Old signs, broken fences, fake notices nailed to trees, and began fixing them one by one. But this time, it felt different. I wasn't just repairing property, I was reclaiming my life. Then I had an idea. Using the tunnel and the evidence we had, I organized a small community meeting. Neighbors showed up, curious, cautious, and a little wary. I stood in front of them, holding the documents and the hidden camera footage. For years, we've been lied to, threatened, and controlled by someone who thought she owned more than just a notice, I said, my voice steady but full of emotion. But the truth is on our side. Our land, our rights, and now we can finally protect them together. Gasps, murmurs, and even some applause followed. Faces that once looked fearful now looked determined. People were smiling, shaking my hand, thanking me for standing up. The tunnel, the recordings, the hidden papers, it wasn't just about me beating Karen. It was about empowering everyone around me. And the final twist? As the sheriff left, he handed me a small envelope. Inside was a notice from the county confirming that Karen and her HOA had been investigated fully. Several members were being charged with falsifying documents and intimidation. I looked at my son, who jumped up and down with excitement. "Daddy, we did it! We really did it!" I smiled, feeling a mix of pride, relief, and pure satisfaction. "Yep, buddy, we did, and no one will ever block this road again."
The tunnel was still there, a secret reminder of how, sometimes, the path to justice isn't the obvious one. It's the one you dig yourself.
Weeks later, life on the farm felt lighter, almost surreal. The road was clear, the fences mended, and the neighbors who once whispered in fear now waved freely, smiling and greeting us. Karen was gone, facing real consequences, and the HOA's corrupt grip had finally been broken. Standing at the edge of the field, I watched my boy run across the grass, the wind tugging at his hair, and felt a deep sense of victory. It wasn't just about winning against one entitled woman. It was about protecting family, property, and truth. Every hidden camera, every secret tunnel, every piece of evidence had led to this moment. I realized that courage doesn't always roar. It sometimes works quietly, smartly, and strategically. And justice? Justice feels like the morning sun spilling over your own land, warm and undeniable. That evening, as the sunset painted the sky in orange and purple, I looked down the road I had fought for. We didn't just reclaim our path, I whispered to my son. We reminded everyone what freedom really means. He grinned, tired but happy. Can we play in the tunnel tomorrow? I laughed, ruffling his hair. Yep, but only the brave get to know the secrets. And in that moment, I knew the story wasn't just about Karen or the HOA. It was about family, courage, and standing up when no one else would. The farm was ours, the road was ours, and the truth, finally, was unstoppable.